What is going on, everyone? Mets Talk with Hayden J here. What is going on, everyone? I hope everyone is doing extremely well today. I am most certainly doing well, and that is because the New York Mets play baseball today. Yesterday was an off day. The Mets are coming back home. They have been absent from Citi Field for almost about 2 weeks now, as they were on the West Coast trip facing the A's, the Dodgers, the Giants, and, well, now they are back home. So that's going to be really good to see. Super happy for that. But yeah, otherwise we got a great stream going on into today's video. I see we got 7 people in the chat already, so that is great. Hopefully that builds over throughout the stream. I know it's a little bit of an early stream. I typically have been, school finals are coming up, going home pretty soon, so that'll be very good. So hopefully the streams will be a little bit more consistent when it comes to time. I know I've been doing a lot of earlier streams, so appreciate you guys tuning in. I know it is early. It is a weekday. Everyone's at work or school. So, kind of just making do with the situation we got right now. But yeah, hopefully everyone is doing well. Obviously, in today's stream, we are going to be covering the New York Mets and the San Francisco Giants series summary, covering the good, the bad, and the ugly, what I observed, what I liked, what I didn't like, and really what went down that whole series for the New York Mets. Then, of course, we are going to go over the New York Mets and the Washington Nationals series preview. We're going to pretty much be previewing that National series, kind of going over what to expect, what we'll see, and all that great stuff. And then, of course, your guys' comments, questions, concerns. And yeah, otherwise, I think we are in for another good stream today. But yeah, if you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, feel free to drop them on in the comment section below. And I guess let's stop wasting any more time and let's dive into it. So the New York Mets, of course, played a 4-game set against the San Francisco Giants. And, it was a pretty adequate series, I'd say, for the most part. I'm not going to sit here and complain. The Mets were fortunate enough to split the series. They started off hot, but just couldn't get the job done at the end. But let's get into it with Thursday's game, my apologies, as the New York Mets beat the San Francisco Giants by a score of 9-4. Kodai Senga was on the mound, 5 innings, 5 hits, 4 runs, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts, 85 pitches. Senga looked pretty decent for the most part, started off good, got a little rocky in his last outing with the long ball and hard contact. His offense backed him up, which was good to see. Like I said, Senga kept his pitch count low. His velo was average. His ghost forkball was nice. Mixed up his pitches very well. Fastball, changeup, especially that ghost fork off speed. It's been very nice for him so far this season. So no major complaints when it came to that outing. Maybe just limit the walks in the beginning, but otherwise no major complaints. Bullpen looked good. Brooks Raley came in for an inning of relief. Clean outing. John Curtis, clean outing besides a hit. Drew Smith, clean outing besides a hit. And then Jeff Brigham came in to close things out, striking out 1. So, yeah, once again, the pitching held down the fort. It's what any good ball team would do. We saw this series, this Giants lineup is heavy strikeout, very home run. They rely heavily on the long ball, and, we saw a lot of that this series. So that was exemplified big time in this first game of the 4-game set against the Giants. So, I guess we're going to have to see how things are going to go. But, yeah, otherwise, successful game 1 in the books for the New York Metropolitans. In terms of the offense, get things started, they scored 9 runs, 13 hits. So the offense was on fire. Pete Alonso had a 2-run homer to left. As stated, the 4th inning, Pete Alonso had a 2-run homer to left to break open this ball game, 366 feet to bring in himself and Francisco Lindor. A couple of batters later, Eduardo Escobar decided to get in on some of the action, and he had a 2-run homer to left, 371 feet to bring in himself and Jeff McNeil. In the 4th inning, a couple of bats later, Brandon Nimmo had an RBI double to left to bring in Luis Guillorme. Heading on into the 6th inning, Jeff McNeil decided to hit a home run. Good to see. McNeil had a solo home run to right, 355 feet. Heading on into the 7th inning, Pete Alonso had a 2-run RBI single to bring in Mark Canha and Francisco Lindor. And then for the final run of this ballgame, Jeff McNeil had an RBI single to center to bring in Pete Alonso. So good offensive night. Brandon Nimmo going 3 for 5. Pete Alonso going 2 for 4 with 4 RBIs. Jeff McNeil going 3 for 3. 2 RBIs. Escobar going 2 for 5 with 2 RBIs. So really good to see this offense break out. 13 hits, total of 26 guys getting on base. That's what you like to see. They were disciplined at the plate, but they were aggressive and they hit for hard contact. And I tell you, power is very important. So Mets win first game 9-4. Senga gets the win. Getting on into game 2, the Mets win this game by a score of 7-0. Joey Lucchesi on the bump, and tip of the cap to Lucchesi. I mean, he really gets a round of applause coming into this. 7 innings of pitching. Who would have thought that Joey Lucchesi would be the first Met pitcher to pitch in the 7th inning this year? I certainly didn't. And yeah, Lucchesi looked really, really good. Obviously, 7 innings, 4 hits, 0 runs, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts, 97 pitches with 65 of those in the strike zone. Lucchesi started off a little rough in the 1st and 2nd inning with location of the zone, a lot of ground ball outs, but hey, he got out of all those. But then as he dialed into this game, he really started to be aggressive with the curve and the slutter. Doesn't have a whole lot of velo, but otherwise looked really, really good. And yeah, was able to just dominate this Giants lineup. Only, like I said, allowing 4 hits, 2 walks, really no barrels, no hard contact, kept the ball on the ground. And in the later half of the game, 5th, 6th, and 7th inning, the strikeouts were coming in heavy, and he really started to dial up on this Giants lineup. So yeah, really, really good to see you, Joey Lucchesi. Much needed outing. The Mets were uncertain, what was Lucchesi going to do? He was in AAA. His first appearance pitching at the major leagues since 2021. We know he had Tommy John surgery. So definitely a huge outing for Joey Lucchesi to have. Super impressive. Hopefully he can continue to do that again. Following that, like I said, good thing Lucchesi went 7 innings. It gives your bullpen a rest. Brooks Raley came in for the 8th inning, striking out 2. And then for the 9th inning, Tommy Hunter came in to relieve it, giving up a hit and striking out 1. So yeah, Mets pitching staff limited this Giants team to only 5 hits, no runs. So you like to see the Mets having the Giants have a shutout. So that is good to see. In terms of the offensive production, getting started in the 2nd inning, Luis Guillorme had an RBI single to left to bring in Mark Canha. So good to see Guillorme with some 2-out hitting there. Heading on into the 5th inning, Jeff McNeil had an RBI single, an infield single, to bring Luis Guillorme home. Heading on into the 5th inning, Pete Alonso had a 2-run homer to center, his 10th on the year, 415 feet, to bring in him and Jeff McNeil. Heading on into the 9th inning, Pete Alonso with some more run creation had an RBI single to left to bring in Lindor and Nimmo. And then for the final run of this game, Daniel Vogelbach had an RBI single to right to bring in Jeff McNeil. So yeah, like I said, another successful offensive night for the Mets. Obviously 7 runs, 13 hits, total of 16 guys on base. Obviously Brandon Nimmo going 2 for 4, McNeil 2 for 4, Alonso 2 for 5 with another 4 RBI night. Vogelbach 2 for 4, Guillorme 2 for 4. Essentially, everyone got a hit in this lineup but Francisco Alvarez. So definitely really good to see the Mets offense was pumping out. Very, very important. So yeah, good offensive night for the Mets. You hope they could have carried that over last 2 games. You won the first 2 games, and people were saying, hey, oh wow, breaking news, outfielder Brian Reynolds has just been extended. We will, I guess, get into that in 2 minutes. But yeah, with that said, you were hoping you could take that high momentum and all of that stuff. But, unfortunately, things could just not really get done a whole lot. So, like I said, we're going to have to see how that goes. But yeah, getting into game 3, the Mets lost this game, unfortunately, by a score of 7-4. Obviously, David Peterson was on the bump for the Mets. 5 innings, and he did not look good. Another really bad outing for David Peterson. David Peterson going 5 innings of relief, giving up 7 hits, 7 runs. a walk, and 8 strikeouts. Yeah, I mean, if you're David Peterson, you can't have outings like this. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat it. Peterson went out there and just looked like crap. Went in, couldn't find the strike zone, constantly fell behind in the count, and just got barreled and barreled and barreled. And this Giants lineup took advantage. You look at David Peterson in this outing particularly, he didn't walk a lot of guys, which is good, but he got killed when it came to facing left-handed pitchers. And, I mean, you saw Crawford, 3-run homer, lefty. Conforto, Flores. He can't pitch to lefties. He has so much complexity against lefties. And, you look at David Peterson. For a dude who has really nice stuff, his stuff is nasty. He has good stuff. He just doesn't know when to use it. I mean, I'm looking at Baseball Savant, and he's thrown his slider, which was a really good pitch for him last year, but the slider's been killing him this year, and he's throwing it 50% of the time, which is half of his pitches. And then he also has the fastball and the changeup and the curve, which are gorgeous pitches, but he doesn't throw it enough. He loves that slider, doesn't break a whole lot, and he throws it too much where the hitters say, okay, and they realize what he's throwing, and then boom, they lean back on it, and then it's over the fence. So, I really like what David Peterson has. I think his stuff is good. He just doesn't know when to use the proper pitches, the proper stuff. And against lefties, he throws the wrong stuff, and then he pays the consequence for it. So I love David Peterson. I love the potential he has. I like his stuff, but he doesn't know when to use the right stuff. Stop throwing the slider as much. Throw more fastballs. The slider was a great pitch for him last year, but he didn't throw it almost half the time. I'd like him to throw the curveball a little bit more. He has a nice curveball. Throw the fastball a little bit more. He's not this heavy strikeout guy. Stop. And we see, he's 7 strikeouts because he threw the slider half of the whole game. Throw the fastball. Get ground ball outs. It helps you with your pitch count. You're not going to be striking out 15 guys in a game, or even 7. So, love David Peterson, but he can't be throwing that stuff. And look what happened. Another back-to-back unfortunate outing. Mets go into top of the second. They're down 4 runs. You go into top of the third. You're down 5. It's hard to come back from a ball game with that. But then following that, Uceta came in, 3 innings to relief, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. So, really tip of the cap to him. Kind of held down the fort so the Mets bullpen wouldn't be taxed. In terms of offensive production, 4 runs, 10 hits. You got guys on base, 14 total on base. You just couldn't really drive him in. In the second inning, Daniel Vogelbach had an RBI double to center to bring in Canna. Heading on into the third inning, Brandon Nimmo had a solo home run to right center, 422 feet over Triple's alley, which is pretty good to see. In the 8th inning, Starling Marte had an RBI single to left to bring in Brett Beatty. And then in the 9th inning, the Mets were trying to have a comeback, but just couldn't get it done. Brett Beatty had an RBI single to left to bring in Mark Canna. Once again, the offense looked decent. 4 runs is good. But it's, your pitcher can't implode the game in the first 2 innings and then say, okay, offense, score me 7 runs. You can only have so many, 9th inning comebacks. So, we're going to have to see how that goes, what the Mets are going to do with David Peterson. Like I said, we'll get into that a little bit more. Obviously, you are going to get, Scherzer and Verlander back very soon. So, most likely David Peterson is going to be the guy that probably gets slithered out. And, we saw he had a great spring training. So it's very surprising to see David Peterson, kind of have been really disappointing this season so far. He had a great spring training, but just now he's not clicking in. And I'm telling you, it's his numbers against lefties have been slaughtering him. So Mets dropped this game 7-4, Peterson with the L. And then getting into game 4 in the final game of the set, should have been a win in my books, but the Mets lost this game 5-4. Tyler McGill on the bump. Another rough outing for McGill. 4 innings, 6 hits, 4 runs, a walk, 2 strikeouts. Started off this, constantly got ahead of the count and constantly saw so many 1-2, 0-2 counts, and just McGill couldn't get the job done and throw a pitch right over the plate, and Giants were hitting home runs off of him and driving in runs because of it. He mixed up his pitch as well. His velo was whatever. It was fair. But yeah, essentially his stuff just was not good enough to get the job done. And yeah, I guess essentially it sucked. And you saw. So Gill came out, all to the bullpen. Jeff Brigham came in for 2 innings. Tip of the cap to him. He's been a really good guy for this New York Mets bullpen. So tip of the cap to Jeff Brigham for coming in to this situation and shutting down half of the Giants lineup. Brooks Raley came in for an inning, giving up a hit and 3 strikeouts. So good to see Raley get out of it. But then you put in Drew Smith in a tie ball game, gives up a hit, a run, a walk, and a strikeout. We saw unfortunate, listen, I love Buck Showalter, but this is the one thing I'll give him on. Unfortunate decision to put in Drew Smith in a high leverage situation. We've seen it since day one that Drew Smith is not good in high leverage situations. Comes in and, the game feels essentially like it's over. And it's an interesting thing. When it comes to the whole bullpen, the Mets bullpen is doing good. I feel losing Diaz definitely hurts to an extent because now all of last year, Buck Showalter would know 9th inning is Diaz. Absolute, consistent. The 9th inning is to Edwin Diaz, nobody else, unless you're losing by a crazy score or ahead by a crazy score. But now you don't have Edwin Diaz. So now this year, for the 9th inning, it could be Robertson, it could be Ottavino, but who goes to the 8th? So, I feel now Buck's a little lost, essentially, because he doesn't have Diaz for that 9th, and he has other people for the 9th inning, so it kind of affects the 8th, the 7th. Going into the season, it would have been Diaz the 9th, Robertson the 8th, Ottavino the 7th, but, now that got a little messed up, so I feel that kind of has been a little complex thing for the Mets and Buck Showalter to kind of decide for. Yeah. So, and then when Buck Showalter sitting here telling me that Drew Smith has the same stuff as Robertson and Ottavino, and yeah, I don't know about that. Drew Smith's numbers are decent. I mean, I know he has 3.86 ERA, whatever. I don't care about that. His numbers in high leverage situations are bad. This season, 9 2/3 innings pitched, 7 hits, 3 runs, 6 walks. He's striking out guys, but he's walking guys too, and he's allowing more guys on base. And as a reliever, you can't be walking guys, and you can't have bases loaded, 1 out, and you have a 2-run lead every single time he comes in and give everyone a heart attack. You can't do that. So, yeah, Drew Smith, we'll see how that goes for him. But, yeah, in terms of the offense, 4 runs, 8 hits. The 3rd inning, Francisco Lindor had an RBI double to left, bring in Marte. 4th inning, Mark Canha had a sac fly. Conforto should have caught it, but dropped it to bring in McNeil. Brandon Nimmo had an RBI sac fly to bring in Vogelbach. And then in the 6th inning, Francisco Alvarez with his first homer on the year, 368 feet to left center. But unfortunately, the Mets could not get the job done offensively. Drew Smith gets the loss. So the Mets take 2-2 or 2-4 from this Giants series. Total of 7-3 on the road trip this year. So, I mean, yeah, essentially a really good road trip. Statistically, the Mets have always kind of had it killed for them when it comes to their road trip. So, super happy to see the Mets actually finally do well on a West Coast road trip. And yeah, essentially that is that. But now the Mets are back home, and, well, they will be playing against the Washington Nationals. So, keep an eye out on that, as tonight the New York Mets will be facing the Washington Nationals, 7:10 Eastern Standard start at home. The Washington Nationals will have Josiah Gray on the bump for the Washington Nationals. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that. Yeah, so the Washington Nationals will have Josiah Gray on the bump for them. Obviously, taking a look at Josiah Gray so far this season, he is 0-4 on the season. How much of that is on him? An ERA at 3.74, a WHIP of 1.48, 21 and 2/3 innings pitched. And in those 21 and 2/3 innings pitched, he's given up 23 hits, 16 strikeouts, 9 walks, and 4 home runs. So, yeah, you look at those numbers, they're not the best. I think the biggest thing with Gray is the hits. Obviously, 21 and 2/3 innings pitched with 23 hits given up. So, not ideal. The walks, 9 walks, that's definitely something that stands out. So Gray is definitely going to have to control that. His numbers against the Mets are not that great. Alonso, McNeil, Lindor, Nimmo, the core four have pretty good numbers against him. I know a lot of them are from last year, and I think Josiah Gray has definitely evolved and changed as a pitcher since then. But we'll see. It's still the same pitcher. Mets know him, and I think he knows that they know him quite well. So we'll see how Josiah Gray goes on the bump tonight. Obviously, the Mets, it's to be determined. Could be multiple options. It could be Jose Butto on the bump for the Mets. You could go with the bullpen game, but I would absolutely hate to do that in the month of April. I mean, it's April 25th. You don't want to be burning out all your bullpen arms. Like I said, try to roll with Butto, see if he can give you 5-6. I know he did pretty decent. It was against an Oakland A's lineup. Was driving in runs. I mean, the fact that he only gave up 1 run and 5 against the A's is pretty good. See what you could do against the Nationals lineup, who is maybe about the same as their lineup as the Oakland A's. So, yeah, we'll see if Butto can get the call. Maybe it's a bullpenning game. You have a guy like Jeff Brigham start. He started a couple games in the past for his former organizations. But I would just hate to do that to your reliever so early. And, we see it. For the first 2 weeks, Buck Showalter loved Dennis Santana, throwing him in, and look what happened. So, I wasn't really sure what the fascination with Dennis Santana was, but, I don't want the Mets to go out there and, burn 5-6 relievers today. Even if you win or lose, it's whatever, but you can't do that in April. If we're in August or September, go for it. But I don't want them to, constantly just go out there and throw in their whole bullpen on April 25th, when we're like 24, 23 games, So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Like I said, I love waking up and not knowing who the starting pitcher is going to be tonight. Hopefully, the Mets will figure out a pitcher soon. Probably Jose Butto, and then you kind of figure it out from there. So that is game 1, 7-10. Getting into game 2, the New York Mets will have Kodai Senga on the mound. Obviously, Senga has been looking pretty good so far this season, 3-0, 21 innings pitched, 18 hits, 25 strikeouts, 14 walks, 5 home runs. So, my only, thing with Senga is limit the walks and limit the long ball. If you keep the ball in the ballpark, this is a Nationals team that likes to chase a lot. So I definitely think Senga could have a fun time with his slider and ghost forkball and his pitches that have really good movement. So maybe you could expect a lot of strikeouts from Senga on this night. Ideally, if he can give you anywhere 6 to 7 innings, that would be nice. Keep the pitch count low. So far, we've seen Senga kind of have a little bit of a relatively large pitch count so far this season. Obviously, you see with 21 innings and just about 4 outings, which, isn't horrible, but keep the pitch count low. And I would expect that Senga would have another nice outing. If you can keep the pitch count low, mix up his pitches, get the Nationals lineup to chase with the slider and ghost forkball and all the other pitches that result in a lot of movement, I think we could expect a nice outing from Kodai Senga. Obviously, the Washington Nationals will have the lefty, Mackenzie Gore. So far, he's also pitched 21 innings, 15 hits, 25 strikeouts, 14 walks, and 2 homers. So essentially very similar pitcher so far to Senga in terms of results, of course. He's a lefty. He's been having a pretty decent start to his season. We know that he was with the Padres organization last year. He was involved in that huge Juan Soto, Josh Bell trade to them. And obviously in return, the Nationals got Mackenzie Gore, who, in my opinion, may definitely be an interesting pitcher down the line for the NL East when it comes to facing him. So hopefully you could try to get up on him. Obviously, I don't believe the Mets have ever faced him. Maybe they faced him once last year, but I don't really think it was anything that serious. Definitely when the Nationals were way out of contention, and the Mets were, certainly a playoff contender team. So, yeah, Mackenzie Gore will be on the bump versus Kodai Senga, and that'll be game 2, tomorrow's game, which is Wednesday at 7:10 Eastern Standard, and getting into game 3 in the final game of this 3-game set, which is Thursday's game at 7:10 Eastern Standard. The Mets will have Joey Fuego, Joey Lucchesi, the Churve man, on the bump. Obviously, Lucchesi only had one outing. He's 1-0. He's 1-0 on the season, 0 ERA, 0.86 WHIP. Obviously, he's only pitched 7 innings, but he has 4 hits, 9 strikeouts, and 2 walks. So, yeah, like I said, if we could see a similar outing to what Lucchesi threw in San Francisco, dial in early. He doesn't have this crazy velo, but he can go out there and have his filthy pitches with the Churve, the slutter, the fastball, constantly get a lot of swinging and misses, a lot of light ground ball outs. Doesn't really get a whole lot of pop flies, but if he gets them, he gets them. You'd like to see more ground balls and fly balls. If you're Joey Lucchesi or really any pitcher in baseball, essentially. So, yeah, nice lefty southpaw for the bump for the Mets. And then for the Washington Nationals, they will have a known friend in Trevor Williams. Obviously, Trevor Williams was picked up this offseason by the Washington Nationals, and kind of an underrated deal. I was kind of hoping the Mets would have re-signed Trevor Williams, but I understand why they didn't. And now it kind of looks like unfortunate. He would have been a nice depth for the Mets. Obviously, he's a nice long reliever. He had a couple starts last year for the Mets in double headers, or if someone had an extra day of rest, or he was a nice long reliever for them. He can give you 2-3 innings in the bullpen for whatever reason, and the Nationals are using that. They made him a starter. So far, 1-1 on the season, 3.33 ERA, 1.08 WHIP, 21 1/3 innings pitched, 19 hits, 13 strikeouts, 14 walks, and 3 home runs. So, yeah, I would say he's a pretty average pitcher. When you look at it, I mean, when you're summarizing this whole season, the whole series coming up with the Mets and the Nationals really have average pitching. I don't think it's like, you're not facing Patrick Corbin or really trashy pitchers, but then you're also not facing, Strasburg, Scherzer, Cole, dominant pitchers. So I think the Mets are more than capable of kind of beating up on this Nationals pitching staff. If this is a team that's going to have great plate discipline, go out there, take your walks, drive up the pitch count, get to the Nationals bullpen. Their bullpen's been pretty darn bad. So, we saw it all last year. Their bullpen can't really grip a baseball. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes for them. It's going to be an exciting series. Obviously, coming into the series, the New York Mets are 14-9, and they are 4-2 on home. So the Mets have only played 6 games at home, 17 on the road. So it'll be good to see the fans back in the ballpark. Fans are going to be loud. They're going to be happy, or they could be mad. You hope they're happy because, it's early in the season. You don't want to make the Met fans upset, of course. So, yeah, that'll be tonight. And then you look at the Nationals. They're coming into this 5-5 on the road, but then with the record overall of 7-14. So, yeah, they're not looking too great. They're not really projected to do much this season. I guess their goal is to get 50, 60 wins. Maybe they can get 65. Heck, maybe they can get 70. Who knows? Probably going to be 5th place in this National League East. So, I guess if you're a Nationals fan, I'm sorry to hear that. But you know what? You guys have a World Series that you lived through. And you have a couple good guys that you could definitely contend with, in a couple years. Taking a look, a couple guys that I think the Mets should definitely keep an eye on for this series. I think number 1 has to be Pete Alonso. Alonso had a big series in San Francisco, obviously. Alonso's numbers the last 7 games are looking pretty solid, I will say, for the most least. Taking a look-see at Polar Bear Pete's numbers in the last 7 games, Pete Alonso has a batting average or a slash line of 288, 364, and 611. Obviously, 8 hits, 2 homers, 9 ribbies, and a walk. Strikeouts have gone up a little bit, but I think those were really just a result of the last 2 games with the Giants, because they had some kind of filthy pitchers. But, yeah, Alonso's been looking pretty good. He's back at home. Nationals, Alonso has pretty darn good numbers when it comes to facing the Nationals. If I go to StatMuse, which is a very good website, definitely recommend everyone goes on StatMuse. I could tell you any good, player numbers versus a team or some sort. So if you look at Pete Alonso versus the Nationals in his career, he has a batting average of 331, 78 hits, 22 homers, 49 ribbies, 44 runs in 66 games. So, yeah, those are pretty good numbers. 331 average, 424 OBP, 686 slugging, and an 1,111 OPS. 22 homers, 49 ribbies against this Nationals team since 2019. So it's an understatement to say Pete Alonso has pretty good numbers against the Washington Nationals. So definitely I think he'll be a guy to keep an eye out for this series. So yeah, I guess let's keep an eye out on Alonso. Give me 1 second. Live stream today at 11:30. I mean, feel free to comments. 30 minutes ago, April 25th. Okay, sorry. I was just making sure I posted this on Twitter. So yeah, definitely Pete Alonso is the first candidate to keep an eye out for. My second is going to be Brandon Nimmo. Brandon Nimmo is another guy who has been on an absolute tear lately. Looking at Mr. Brandon Tate Nimmo. In the last 7 games, he's batting average of 454, an OBP of 438, and a slugging of 710. Last 7 games, 31 at bats, 5 runs, 14 hits, 2 homers, 5 ribbies, no walks, and 4 strikeouts. So those are some pretty good numbers. We had that 5-hit game in San Francisco, in Los Angeles, and ever since he's just been hitting and getting on base and driving in runs. Very aggressive, but also has great plate discipline. And when you combine those two together, it's in for success. So, yeah, we'll see how Nimmo does this series back at home. Hopefully he does pretty well. Let's look at Nimmo versus the Nationals. We'll look at his career numbers against them. Pretty good. 276 average, 74 hits. 9 homers, 28 ribbies, 39 runs scored in 82 games against the Nationals in his career. So 276 average, 383 OBP, 455 slugging, and an OPS of 838. So also pretty good numbers to keep an eye out for. And my third and final guy is going to be Jeff McNeil. He, started off the season a little slow. It was a little loss at the plate, but has been breaking out lately, and no one's really been talking about it. You look at the last 7 games, Jeff McNeil in 26 at-bats has 6 runs, 12 hits, a homer, 3 ribbies, 2 walks, a strikeout, a batting average of 462, an OBP of 533, a slugging of 654. McNeil had multiple hit games. He had 3 multiple hit games in the San Francisco series and looked pretty good in LA. And so far, he's been on a mission. McNeil has pretty good career numbers against the Nationals. 338 average, 74 hits, 5 homers, 27 ribbies, 32 runs scored in 63 games in his career against the Nationals. 338 average, 400 OBP, 479 slugging, and an 879 OPS against the Nationals in his career. So keep an eye out on those 3 guys that series. When it comes to the Nationals, coming off of a 2 out of 3 game series win against the Twins. Didn't look super great against Baltimore, so we'll see. This is a team that doesn't hit for a whole lot of power, doesn't get a whole lot of guys on base. Pitching's not really that great. So, all around, this is a team that you think you could try to beat up on. When it comes to game 1, it is kind of concerning. You're playing a crappy Nationals team, and you don't even know who's starting, which it's inadequate to see. So hopefully if you're the Mets, you can get a guy like Jose Butto. If you really have to go to a bullpen game and, you go for the bullpen game and, you really try to hope that Senga and Lucchesi can go far in game 2 and 3 because you don't want to tax the bullpen this early on. But, essentially we're really going to see how that goes for the Mets. Otherwise, I hate to do this, but we are going to call it a stream here. I know I unfortunately didn't get to go over any comments and questions. I do apologize. Maybe I'll look back at some of these and maybe the next stream I'll go over them, or if you want a screenshot or remember your questions and you could comment them next time and I'll definitely spend much more time on comments and questions in regards to next stream. I do apologize for cutting it short, just kind of been busy and really wanted to hop on here and talk about the Mets and Giants series summary, Mets and Nationals series preview, and all of that great stuff. So with that said, I really do appreciate everyone for tuning in to today's stream as always. And yeah, otherwise, I guess for my final goodbye, I appreciate everyone for tuning in to today's stream. Please, everyone, smash that like button, turn on those post notifications, tell your friends about this channel, subscribe, all of that great stuff. If you're watching this on replay, let me know, any comments, whatever. Hit that notification bell, please. We are almost, let's get to 800 subscribers. We are almost there. I know we could do it. Let's try to get to it by the All-Star break. I think that's an ideal goal somewhat. And yeah, essentially that's all I have for today's stream. We went over the New York Mets and the San Francisco Giants series summary, going over the good, the bad, and the ugly. Sorry to brain fart. The Mets and Nationals series previewing that, going over the Mets pitching staff situation, and all of that great stuff. So yeah, otherwise I appreciate everyone for tuning in. And yeah, let's go Mets. Let's ride. Till next time, baseball fans. See you.